So every week, the Minding Your Business podcast comes to you normally on a Friday, but today is on a Saturday because Friday was completely hectic and busy for me. But we come to you by way of Brooks Brothers Consulting. Brooks Brothers Consulting was started by my brother and I in June of 2013. We are a lending and banking consulting and leadership development company. And we work with individuals, business owners, as well as in the banking and credit union space to provide not only leadership development for management at various levels, but also alternative financing platforms. So listen, we've had a big run recently with people in the trucking industry, providing trucks and dump truck financing and things like that, consumer financing for those that are in the consumer space, for those that are younger in your business, whether you need a line of credit or you're purchasing an asset, you need to get with us. So the design of Brooks Brothers Consulting is not to create debt for people. It's to allow people to utilize funding to purchase the assets that allows you to do the type of business that generates wins for you and your family. So we work with you to get you the best thing. So you can't just come to us and say, I want $50,000 and blah, blah, blah. What we do is we sit down, we look at your overall situation, and we look for creative ways. Maybe you don't need 50,000. Maybe you only need 25. Maybe you only need 10. It just depends. So we look at your situation. You may even need 50, but you need a partner in that to be able to sit down and really look at what it is that you really need versus just having a wish list. And then we connect you with a network of over 4,000 lenders around the country that are all interested in doing business with you. So they're looking for people like you to do business with. And so we connect you in that regard. So Brooks Brothers Consulting, 901-808-3801. Call or text, and then visit us at www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com. We are here. Episode 56 is called Winning, baby. Not Charlie Sheen, but we're still winning. Let's go with the music.
What we do here is go back.
All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are catching this podcast, wherever you happen to be when you're listening to this podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, normally coming to you on a Friday. So normally we record new episodes Friday afternoon around noon. However, yesterday was just wild, man. Just wild in a good way. There was a lot of business. My phone was ringing. Shout out to my guy, Keith. Great deal opportunity that we're looking at to be able to help others. But so glad that y'all could join me. So glad that my Facebook audience could join. Jay Lewis, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining on the Facebook Live version of the podcast, as well as we're recording. You can listen to the podcast whenever you want. That's the beautiful thing about podcast is you can listen whenever you want on iTunes, which is Apple Podcast. You can listen on Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, just about anywhere, SoundCloud, anywhere that you listen and consume podcast content, you can check out the Minding Your Business podcast. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news, there's no business like minding your own. So, man, I'm so glad to come to y'all with episode 56, and it's just tired of winning, baby. Listen, I don't have Charlie Sheen, I don't have nobody else around me, but we're winning. There's so many wins that are going on, and I'm going to be short and sweet today. I want to tie in, if you look at this week, just around, so we had the local elections here in Shelby County, Tennessee, as well as, around the country. You had a lot of the midterm elections and primaries and things like that. And then you had one of LeBron James, who opened up his I Promise school there in Akron, Ohio, his hometown. And I'll start there, and then I'm going to transition into the election cycle and give a few thoughts there. If you're on Facebook Live and you want to join in on this conversation, don't be scared. You don't have to worry about it. And I'm not going to judge where you're at. Just if you're in the kitchen, make sure you wash the dishes and all that kind of stuff, because folk will be able to see it. Right down here, somewhere on the bottom of your menu there, as you're watching this podcast, there's a little person with looks like a little picture attached to him. Click that button, and I will invite you onto the show, and you can comment. It'll split screen. We're using the technology. All right, so we're over halfway through 2018, so we use technology, right, to enhance our human touch. Okay, not to replace it, to enhance it. So you can join on the podcast with me if you so choose. I'd love to have you give your thoughts. If you're on gag order and that kind of thing, don't do it. All right. If you worry about your boss seeing it, don't do it. Okay. I'm not trying to get nobody in trouble. If folks say I'm trying to get everybody in trouble and that kind of thing. No, I'm not. You know, if you're on gag order or you're worried about not getting next week's check, don't do that. Okay. Otherwise, if you have a thought or opinion or something that you like to share, always at any time hit that button. I'll get the message, and I'd love to have you on, and you'll be live on the podcast. All right. So LeBron James, as I started out, opened up his school. He's been working on it for some time, so it's not like one of these things where all of a sudden the building just shows up and you know he's been working on this for a few years now. And while he's not the only one to open a school, he's not the only athlete or celebrity or anything like that to open a school. We get that, okay? It is very significant considering his status within sports. LeBron James is arguably the most recognizable figure in sports today. He has been in the league now, I want to say a little over, he's heading to his 16th year. So he's been in the league over 15 years, still regarded as one of the top players, if not the top player in the NBA. And again, there's another show to argue all of that. What I want to get to is the pure win of it. The win is how many people that he inspires, and the fact that he remains grounded in spite of being recognized and being scrutinized as one of the top players in the league. He's also been one of the top players in terms of giving back. A lot of times what you see, and I've spent a little time in the NBA, around basketball, and a lot of times you see guys at the mid to lower level in terms of their profile tend to be the most involved in the community and stay the most connected. And not that other guys with higher profiles don't, but not as directly involved as you're seeing in LeBron. So LeBron is, from what I've been told by some folks that are connected to the project, he's been very involved in that. So it's not something that he just wrote a check for, okay, and put his name on it. Same just like Jalen Rose, same just like others that have started schools in their communities. These are things that these guys are heavily involved in terms of decision making, in terms of the planning of it, and just their overall involvement. So that is super critical as we inspire our community, that these type of folks are willing to give back, not just their money, but their influence and their time, which is the most precious thing, man. And so definitely shout out to LeBron on that. But that's a huge win for what that does for that community in terms of, it's a public school, so it's not a charter school or anything like that. It is within the public school system. It's got a little bit longer day for the kids. There are several meals that are involved. And what I like is how it's tying in a number of different areas, whether it's STEM or whether it's other trades and things like that. It's kind of honing all those things in and giving kids a platform of which they can, express themselves, learn, make mistakes, and then have opportunities to grow. So it's not just simply college prep, just to spit people out to go to college and then do this, but giving them kind of a support platform that, as you've heard from LeBron, he didn't have that growing up. Many people didn't have that growing up, right? And so shout out to him, but that's a huge win in terms of what that does for the culture and what that does, across, American society is for him opening up that top-notch school. And again, there's many, whether it's here locally in Memphis or just around, who have done maybe not to that size and scope, but are doing big things. Even just here on my Facebook, we've got people that are doing wonderful things. We got Dr. Durden, Dr. Nicole. What's going on, girl? Great sis right there. In the field of medicine and in the field of how that is utilized for people just around this community and her community service. Justin Spencer, man, my God, shout out to Justin, man, what he's doing around the community, not just here in Memphis, but even just around the state. And what he's doing for his young ones in connecting them with resources and, just around the country. Good morning, Jay Lewis. How you doing? Jay Lewis has always been an inspiration, for me and many others with what she does with her girls. Me having young girls and her having girls and what she's done and how she's been supportive of them throughout their endeavors has always been something that has been inspirational personally for me. And so these are just folks that are watching in on the Facebook Live for those that are on the podcast. But, definitely shout out to them. So there's just there's wins going on. There's things breeding. And even when you bring that locally here to Memphis, man, you see positive energy. We're going to have our challenges. Listen, I've lived in, let's see, how many states have I lived in? I've lived in 5 different states. Okay, I'm 37. I've lived in 5 different states. There are challenges all over, y'all. Okay. So wherever you're listening to this podcast, you're thinking, your city's this or your city's that. And, you can be negative all you want, but I'm just telling you, your city has, positive qualities as well, as does Memphis, man. And, I've been bullish on Memphis for a long time, and you're starting to see it. And by the time it hits the masses, it's already been going. But, there's kind of a renaissance that's going to be going on here in Memphis for a number of different reasons. And, it's only going to be what you make it. And so there's just so much winning, and we've got to celebrate the wins and not just hone in on all the, negative statistics, whether they're true or not. And it's not that we forget them or we just discard them, but we've got to know that they're there, and we've got to focus in on the wins. We got to focus in on the winning and the positive nature of what's going on. And man, and that's all the way around. Twyla, what's going on? How you doing on the Facebook Live? Elliot the Main Sales, what up, man? He's joining in. Matter of fact, Elliot, I need to get with you, man, on some stuff, from them chairs and all that kind of thing, man. So I need to get with you on that. But Elliot's another example of, again, entrepreneur that building a brand here in Memphis in a positive light. So Miss French, how you doing? Good morning. Thank you for joining. Adrian, what's up, brother? Adrian Henning, again, in the real estate industry with me, doing great things, man, helping people, connecting them to home ownership, working in the commercial area. So, man, there's so many people doing positive things, and, everybody's not going to get the, LeBron, everybody's not going to get their picture shared, 10 million times like LeBron. You know what I mean, with this school. But I want to show the different levels of winning that's going on and then bring that down to this level here in Shelby County and in Memphis, Tennessee. And so, man, I love, the winning. I love people who are striving towards it, people who have taken their lumps. And everybody that I mentioned, they've taken their lumps at different times, but they keep fighting. They keep grinding it out. They keep looking for strategic ways to be intelligent about how they scale and move their business and their practice, and even despite some of the setbacks that are out there, man. So this is just about winning today. That's all it's about. We're sticking to the positivity, and then you should too. So I want to inspire some people to stick with the positivity, and we're shouting out to everybody, baby. So, as you transition from, talking about LeBron, and again, there's other wins. I could be on this all day talking about wins, but I want to focus in on the election. So Thursday, August the 2nd, we had the election. And what was interesting is there was a lot of winning, particularly with, black women that were running for offices. Yolanda Knight, Katrina Robinson, Tammy Sawyer, Tamika Gibson, Heidi Kuhn, Shalandria Ford, Erica Sugarman, Miss Akbari, Love Miss Akbari too, man. She's phenomenal. But there was a lot of wins going on, and then you had some folks. Of course, Phil Bredesen won the Democratic primary for governor of the state of Tennessee, and you had David Kustoff. I guess whatever. He was able to get some things out. Mikael Lowry, Van Turner, Lee Harris as the new mayor of Shelby County. So you had this changing of the guard that took place on Thursday, which was very interesting. Some people saw it coming, and then some didn't. Of course, typically, the natural notion is that when you got a majority of one political party in play, then, the other one kind of jumps out there. So when Democrats are kind of controlling, the various divisions of government, then the Republicans come out, and then vice versa. When the Republicans have control of things, then the Democrats come out. But there was something different about that. And listen, I don't have to give my disclaimer. I'm not one or the other. I'm not a political party affiliate. Okay. I'm not Democratic affiliate. I'm not Republican affiliate. I'm people affiliated. And I've been around a little while to be able to vote on different sides. I look at the person and what their track record is, what do they plan to do, what have they done already, and, what is their heart for the people. Truly, not the heart for the system or the machine or their own personal business endeavors, which, they're going to have. But what is their true heart for the people? And the people that won, when we talk about winning on Thursday night, are people that I've had a chance to be around and see grow and even participate and hopefully have been a resource. They consider me a resource with their various endeavors and things like that. But these are folks that, when you know them personally and they have the heart for the people, man, it really makes you excited about the wins. And several people have talked about this even on their post. Elliot talked about it. Justin talked about it. My guy Brian Harris, one of the leaders in Apple, had a really good post on it yesterday and really kind of inspired this particular podcast. But shout out to everybody. I know I'm missing names. And, for those that maybe didn't win, as it's been stated, continue working in the community, continue doing your thing. So just because you don't have the office and the title doesn't mean that the work's not needed, and doesn't mean that you can't still continue to be a beacon of light, even though you're not particularly with the title and you're not going to be recognized as such that way, but you still be recognized and do your thing in the community by continuing to work. So the work is what it's about. And now that the people have won, now it's time for the tough part, so you've gone through the little bit easier part of being elected for those that won. The next piece is going to be the work. The work's got to be done. And I'm confident with the vast majority of this group that the work's going to get done. I've talked to some people in Katrina Robinson's camp. I'm hoping to get her on the podcast next month. Because I know everybody's busy kind of running around. And so I'm hoping to get her. I'd love to have some others. Tammy Sawyer, I'd love to have you. Lee Harris. Because everybody that I mentioned, I'll be reaching out to your camps, man. I'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast to talk about your platform and kind of what you're looking to do post the win. So you got the early win. Now let's begin, collecting wins, not just for yourself, but again, for the community, which I know many if not all these folks have that heart for the community. So, man, I was really blown away, from Thursday's results, mainly because they said, there was some growth in early voting and things like that. But I'm interested, if you're interested in commenting, if you're on Facebook Live again, comment or, give your request if you want to be live on the show. I love to hear from some folks in terms of what you think really happened. There's a few things that, some people have shared with me that as their theory of what they think happened on Thursday and why we got the results that we got. No matter how you feel about the White House and the current president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and what has been argued as his approach. I'll say that his approach to government, decisions that have been made or that he's allowed to be made, and then you get into all of his personal endeavors, his way of speaking to people, the way he's spoken about people, about women, about things within the National Football League, and you go all the way around. So, he's, definitely stirred the bee's nest during his time as president. Okay. So one of the things that people have said is that it was hard for the Republicans to defend that. When they're having to go and they're having to defend the president, or they align themselves with the president, that turned out to be a fatal mistake. I'd love to hear somebody's take on that. I can see some truth to that, of course, that for those that align themselves with the presidents, they took L's on Thursday, and that people are seeking a more level-headed temperament and a more vision for the people than just what you're seeing from some of the shocking things that you've seen out of the White House related to President Donald J. Trump. All right, Adrian Henning says, most white people say the Republicans just didn't come out. That's their gripe. Yeah, that's another thing, Adrian, that people have said, that people said Republicans just didn't come out to vote. I find that a little, I don't know, because typically, certainly in the latter years, say the last 10, 15 years, Republicans have been very intentional and very good about mobilizing themselves and getting active and being a part of the election process. And for them to just not come out, I'm not as sure of that. Or did they come out and they just didn't vote Republican? Because they couldn't bring themselves to do it. So either they didn't show up, or they did show up and they couldn't bring themselves to go after the Diane Blacks and some of these folks that are really heavily aligned with the president, because they've ran out of ways to be able to defend what the president has said and done. I don't know. I don't really psychoanalyze the politics too much, other than for the management of the means of production. So I don't really manage it that much. So Adrian says, I call BS too, especially in the county, which is mostly white. Yeah, Adrian, I think that, across the state of Tennessee has mostly been what many people consider to be a red state. And so because of that, people tend to mostly vote Republican. They tend to have the Republican views around many of the social issues, especially. Some of the fiscal issues, yeah, but more so there's social issues that drive some of that on both sides, Republican and Democrat. So I'm not completely sure, just in my overall view, I'm not completely sure that, you could say Republicans just didn't show up. Now, there may be fact and data that supports that, and I'll certainly adhere to that if that turns out to be the case. But I'm thinking that they showed up to some level. They just, what I found is that, people can say whatever they want. They can post whatever they want. They can like, comment. They can, whine and fuss all day. At the end of the day, for those that show up to the polls, and when they get in that booth, it's just them, what decision do they make? Because, folk will lie. Y'all know that, right? Folk will lie. They say they'll vote Democrat. They vote Republican. They say they vote Republican. They vote Democrat. They say they wouldn't vote. They don't show up at all. So, one thing folks will do is they will lie. So you have to take some of that thing with a grain of salt. What up, Shay Brown? What's going on? Y'all go back and check out that episode I had with Shay Brown, man. Shay, that one's picking up some likes. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, people got re-engaged with that one, your episode from a few weeks ago again. So I don't know what's going on with that. I didn't even post your picture. Well, I posted a picture of Shay Brown, man. Folks was going berserk even on LinkedIn. But shout out to Shay Brown, Royal Kingdom. Thank you for watching. And again, just someone else, again, winning. That's what we're talking about. So Shay's doing her thing around the country from a public relations standpoint and branding and helping folks be able to brand their business and that sort of thing. Shay says same thing that blacks say about Dems. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, there's the comments that go all the way around. At the end of the day, what I think, my opinion of it is that people could not bring themselves to defend the president. And I said this when the president was elected, when people got all upset and I can't believe he won. I said, listen, it's going to be a solid thing for President Trump, because what he's going to expose is the thought process of this country and how someone who is essentially, when they say he's a business owner, tell me what business President Trump has ever ran. He's mostly a real estate speculative guy. He's like the guy, again, before the recession that would come to the bank and, he wants to borrow money so he can buy 20 properties and he makes all his money off rental property. I mean, he's a speculative real estate guy. What business process has he actually oversaw and developed and scaled? A hotel is a real estate deal. That's speculating on real estate. That's not just running the hotel business. He's not doing that. Or a casino business or a golf course. He's speculating on the value of the real estate. He buys it cheap and tries to sell it high. Or in his case, he runs off and leaves all the contractors in line with the lawyers at the court when he files bankruptcy. And then he's a reality TV guy. People got re-engaged with him with The Apprentice, the TV show. So when you look at it, what is, when you're, I think people had just a hard time in their heart really defending. I think they tried to defend him in the beginning, and they got caught up in the whole fake news quotes and, him going back and forth and firing somebody, on his team every other week. And, he went through all of that kind of thing. And he's actually benefited in some cases business, at least for the short term. Now there's going to be the big drop off, but he's benefited corporate business here. And he's impacted some things with capital gains from a tax standpoint and that kind of thing. But for the most part, people have a hard time defending him. They have a hard time defending him. And so that transpired to when you get to the midterm election, it's going to be hard. So what's going to be interesting is how this particular election is going to impact 2020 when you get there. And now you start grooming for, or at least certainly prior to that, you start grooming for the presidential election. And man, that's going to be extremely interesting as to how each party, Democrat and Republican, responds to that. And what we have to do here locally is we've got to get behind these folks that have won. And there has to be an accountability factor to them to deliver for the people and the things that they campaigned on. And it's not just the accountability towards them, but the accountability towards us. Those of us that are in business, those of us that are taxpayers and things like that, we've got to be willing to be involved and help them, to hold them accountable to do that. It's not just, pointing the finger at any of these folks. We've got to participate. And so I'm thinking from the business community, we should have some kind of alliance with many of these folks to look at how are we inspiring people into ownership. And ownership is not just business ownership, right? We've gotten to this thing in society where we try to beat everybody down to be an entrepreneur. I don't want everybody to be an entrepreneur, business owner. I don't. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to create this marketplace where everybody owns a rock and is trying to trade it for two rocks. Nah. What I want to do is everybody have the ownership mindset to own their means of production. And there's many ways to do that other than just simply owning the business. Owning the business is great, but in order to scale and grow business, you still have to have people, and you're still going to have people that have an ownership mindset, even when they're not particularly the titled owner. And that's what's going to take us to the next level. But I'm supportive of these people. I had a really brief conversation with Lee Harris. Of course, he's busy. I'll probably catch up with him, and I don't want to reach out to these people because we've got to facilitate some level of dialogue beyond just the names, right? The people with names and clout around our city. And that's one level, but we've got to have a grassroots effort that's going on because that's what helped get a lot of these folks elected. My guy Brian Harris said it in his post that one of the things you saw with these people, so you got the first part of it with people having a hard time on the Republican side defending President Trump. The other piece of it was a lot of these folks did a great job. Yolanda, Katrina, Lee, Tammy, Van was an incumbent. Shalandra, Erica, a lot of people did a great job of their branding over the last several months. And you saw that. And you saw even with Lee Harris, shout out to Danielle Inez. I mean, the communication was great. I got great communication from these folks. It wasn't overbearing. It wasn't, just ridiculous. It wasn't hateful. It wasn't mean towards another candidate. People just did their own brand and they treated it as business. And that's what made the difference is they grew their brand. You didn't see any of those folks that I named. They weren't out slinging mud. They were having mud sling at them some, but they weren't out, slinging mud and that kind of thing, man. These folks were about their business and they were growing their own brand. And that's a good lesson for us, even in business and even for those that are looking to run for office here in the future, is focus in on your brand and what you stand for, and then engage people through your authenticity and your transparency. People have to know that you really believe. You're not just running for office to get a pension. You're not just running for office to get some salary. You're not just running for office to be popular and to have prestige. So everybody likes your post and shares your post, and everybody calls you by your title, and everybody shows you love wherever you go to your face, at least to your face. You have to showcase that you really understand the job, you understand the role, the scope of it, what you're able to influence, what you're not able to influence, and your own branding. And so a lot of these folks, and they had great support teams. So shout out to everybody that was on the campaign support team, those that participated at various levels with folks that were running for office. I mean, whether you're really close to the campaign, maybe you volunteered. Shout out to all those folks, man, because there's a lot of tireless work, I'm sure, that went on by a lot of people to help these folks gather these wins. And so you can't forget about the team, man. But it is very interesting as we go through this, and there was these wins that people take a cue from a lot of these folks on how to brand themselves. They use social media the right way. They use email marketing the right way. Their advertising. You notice these folks didn't come with a pot of gold, so they weren't doing a ton of TV and radio. What they were doing was they were out kind of old school in the streets. Now, you saw a lot of these folks. They were knocking door to door. They were, calling people, texting people, and again, not overbearing. At least from my experience, I heard from all these folks, but it wasn't like they were. I didn't feel like they were beating me over the head. And the other thing they did was they provided information. And so shout out to everybody that I've named. When I would get communication from them, and I'm sure others did as well, I would get information, information not just about voting for them. So that was part of the branding. It wasn't just a constant barrage of vote for me, 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 vote for me. Here's what I'm doing. Vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. Here's what I'm doing. Vote for me. It was, here's information about the community. Here's what's going on. Here's what you should know about. Were you aware of this? And these aren't just attacks. So it's not just one party attacking the other and blah, blah, blah. It's, hey, Ron, were you aware of this? Were you aware that this was going on? We're having this meeting. This is going on. Here's what we're going to be discussing. A lot of them had different kind of sub levels within their campaign where they focused on women. They focused on men. I really saw Katrina Robinson even do that. She had Katrina Robinson for men and that kind of thing. So I thought that was, really top notch, in my opinion, on what people brought to the table to lead to those wins, man. So we all have an opportunity to win. Everybody's not going to get the prestige and the camera time, but what all of us do is critical and important to building up the community, particularly when we're talking about here in the Memphis community in Shelby County. So Shay Brown says, "Hey, Ron, I'm smooth." Girl, you are. It is smooth for real. But yeah, so Josh Gary, what's going on, man? Glad that he could join Financial Advisor. We did actually the workshop on actually 2 weekends ago. Had the opportunity to work with Brittany Thornton with Juice Orange Mound. Shout out to the Soror Brittany. She's got some big things going now and in the future. Josh Gary and Ryan Ely, financial advisors in their financial advising business. Great men that provided great information. And we did that over in Orange Mound. So we're going to be doing that again here soon. So look out for the invite with that. But man, it's just about winning. Jew, what's going on, brother? Julius Harris, amongst the leadership with Kroger, with the Kroger brand. And so, man, it's just about, let's say that it's time out for all the negative stuff. Yeah, we could sit and talk all day about the negatives of Memphis and this and that. Anywhere that you go, it's only going to be what you bring to it. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I've been highly successful in Memphis because I've tried to bring the right mentality and attitude. Not that I won all the time. I've taken the L's. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it. I've taken the L's, baby. And listen, I could do a podcast for 4 hours to talk about L's and who did this and who said that and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I'm still here. It's still making it. Everybody's looking good. It's Saturday. The sun's shining. You're breathing. You got some reasonable health. Man, let's go make it happen. It's just about the wins, right? On the political side, again, it's time for the accountability. We have to hold people accountable to what they campaign for, but I'm really excited and bullish on the people that won. And it's great to see, black women be in leadership in this. And for those and black men as well, and men across various cultures. And hopefully that we'll see Shelby County become much more diverse, not just in terms of black and white and that kind of thing, but all the way around, as we see with Miss Akbari and many others, that we become this diverse, an example of diversity in terms of school of thought, experience, and background, that we can continue to advance this community. So this community doesn't advance because one, group of people or religion or one race manages everything, right? That's not how it continues to grow. We have to have diverse ways and schools of thought. Even if you look the same, you can still be diverse. Just because two people are black doesn't mean they think the same or act the same, or just because two people are white mean they think and act the same. So Justice says Shelby County is actually majority African American. Yeah, exactly. It is, particularly within the city limits. And even when you expand beyond to the various other municipalities of the suburbs, yes, it is. It's a majority African American city. So Justin's exactly right. I think the stats come in somewhere around, between 60 and 70% is typically what you'll see. So we play a big role in that, from a race standpoint, but we've got to be able to diversify. We've got to have diverse schools of thought even within that. And so hopefully, this is the kind of beginning of keeping the energy around how are we supporting the means of production political side to small business and micro business and freelancing, solopreneurs, things like that. So how are we working to scale all these things up so that we can have a community that continues to thrive? And so Memphis has a lot of great opportunity. All of you here that are on the Facebook Live, those of you that are listening on the podcast, you all contribute to that. So if you happen to visit Memphis, check it out. There's a lot of great things here that are going on, and you're going to continue to see here over the next several years. There's a lot of construction that's going on currently now here in Memphis, and that's going to continue to go on as we rehab kind of old infrastructure and look to improve it. And Memphis is primed. Memphis geographically is primed to be able to really ascend. And you'll start to see it. If you're involved in it now, you already know. You know what I mean? Shout out Justice Spencer. See, we already know what's going on to some level and extent. Justice, other people who know what's going on, know. And for everybody else, you're going to start to see this renaissance that's going to go on in Memphis because, again, geographically, it's got great options. You've got a few of the Fortune 500 companies that are based here. The cost of living, as you see people on the coast. And for someone, again, you're talking to somebody, too, that's lived in Seattle, Washington. I've lived in Washington, D.C. So I know what the cost is of living on the East and West Coast. I'm just telling you, Memphis is on the map. People outside of Memphis love it. We got to get the locals engaged in it. Okay? But yeah, Justice, you're exactly right, brother. In terms of some of the demographic stuff with Memphis. So listen, shout out to everybody, man. We're out here winning. Continue to win on this great Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sign off this particular podcast. If you got comments, questions, you agree with something, you don't agree with something, you have something else you'd like to comment, you can do so. Ron at themybpodcast.com. So Ron at THEMYB, Mary Yellow Brown, podcast.com. And you can email me. You can also inbox me on my Champ Ron page as well as on the Minding Your Business Podcast Facebook page. And you can check me out, Instagram, all the different social medias, LinkedIn, blah, 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 Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But give us a call, if we can help from Brooks Brothers standpoint. If you're looking for financing for your business, give us a call, 901-808-3801. And man, thank you everybody on the Facebook Live, everybody on the podcast. Continue to check the podcast out, www.themybpodcast.com. If you want to be a guest, if you want me to come to your business, we can broadcast your event. I'd love to be able to do that, so just communicate with me. All right? Looking forward to more guests. We got some things lined up as we go through the rest of this year, but I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business Podcast. There's no business like minding your own.